Greetings and salutations, and thanks for clicking on the video. Today I want to talk a little bit about equalizers. I just picked myself up a very nice Techniques equalizer that goes nicely with my receiver, as you see in the picture here. And I did that because I was not particularly happy with the sound that I was getting. The combination of the room that the stereo is set up in, the amplifier, and the speakers themselves didn't seem to be going together very well. And with a graphic equalizer you can really get in there and tune that sound. And I got to thinking that I would probably like to do a video about equalizers. And the reason why is because back in the late 70s and on through the 80s, these were very popular accessories on home stereo systems, and most that you would see would not be set up properly because the person who had gotten a hold of one didn't quite understand how they worked and how you could get the best power out of them. And so I'm just going to give you a little guide today to get you started. Of course, equalizers were something we used a lot in radio and recording studios for any number of applications. And today I'm going to give you just kind of a basic idea of how to get the most from your equalizer. This is an ADC Sound Sculptor equalizer I found a picture of on the web a couple of years ago. I actually had one of these way back a long time ago. Don't quite know when they were made. I'm thinking probably late 70s. And this was a 5-band equalizer, and it did have a button for you to be able to hook up a tape deck, because usually the way that you interface an equalizer with a stereo system is to use the tape loop that is provided. So ordinarily you can click that in and you can hear the playback from the tape, and if you have the sort of tape deck that allows you to hear the audio coming back off the tape as it's recorded, then you can hear that as well. So that's called a tape loop, because the audio goes out and comes back. Well, this is where you would put your equalizer. So most equalizers that are headed for home equipment have a tape button and some extra jacks on the back that you can hook a tape deck up. The Techniques that I picked up is really groovy, because not only does it have the tape ins and outs on the back, but you can also figure out whether you want to send the tape deck equalized audio or flat audio, and it's done with these switches over here. So let's get into talking a little bit about how you can get the most use out of your equalizer. Now, instead of taking a camera and pointing it at the real physical machine, I decided that I could use a virtual equalizer that is in my audio editing software. And this opens up as a 10-band equalizer. Most home equalizers that you'll find will be between 5 and 10 bands. And of course you'll pick these up on eBay and at yard sales and things like that. And unless it's been really abused or damaged in some way, it should probably work just fine, because there really is not much to these machines. They're just a box of filters. So here's a 10-band unit. And of course, since we're dealing with virtual reality here, we can have a 20-band or even like a big old professional Lang 30-band equalizer, but we'll stay with 10 because that'll be a good place to start. When you first hook up your equalizer, and we're going to assume here that you're trying to equalize your speakers in the room, that you want to have a little bit more control over the sound. Let's say that in my case, my speakers are 3-way, and I have to sit kind of close to the stereo, and it sounded a little bit squawky to me because I was hearing more of the mid-range than anything else. So I was going through the bands and trying to figure out where this squawk that I was hearing, a peak, in other words, in the frequency response. And all you have to do is just kind of go through and play with the controls until you find the offending frequency range, and then you can adjust it as you want. Now, to get started here, the first thing you want to do is make sure the equalizer is set flat, where it's not doing anything. It's not boosting or cutting. It is a unity gain device. And then take your tone controls on your amplifier and set those flat as well, because we don't really need those tone controls anymore if you've got an equalizer in the path. And as a matter of fact, they may fight one another and color the sound in an unpleasant way. So I just like to go ahead and flatten those out. Now, if you use loudness, the loudness control, which is sort of an automatic bass boost when you're listening at low volumes, you can elect to turn that on or off if you like. I'm not a big fan of loudness. I like to I like the tonal quality of the sound to be the same no matter where the volume is. It's just a thing in my head. I have had a couple of nice amps that had loudness controls that I thought sounded pretty good, but in general I don't like it. Anyway, just set your tone controls to flat, and then you can just start goofing around here and figure out, what you want to boost and what you want to cut. Now, probably it's going to end up looking something like this. You'll want to boost here in the very low end. All right. And now, remember, this particular equalizer has a 24 dB boost and a 24 dB cut. Most home-type equalizers, the range is 10 boost, 10 dB boost, 10 dB cut, or 12, something like that. But this is, since it's a virtual equalizer, it's kind of exaggerated. But you'll want to boost the bass a little bit. And remember that it's not all about boosting. I've seen people do this many times where they have an equalizer and it's like they just boost. And they'll take the treble like this and they'll just boost it up and they'll make a big V out of it, right? And they won't cut anywhere. Well, the device is made to boost and cut. So instead of making your V where it's all just boosting, let me reset this. Where it's, okay, we're back to where we were. Cut a little bit too. In other words, you can boost your bass here by, in this case, it says 10, but, about 5 or 6 dB, you do a boost on your bass. And then if you don't like the mids, you want to get them out, you want to de-emphasize those a little bit, go ahead and cut them, bring them down. In other words, the further you get away from zero, the more phase shift and problems that you're causing with the filtering. So you want to try and keep as close to that zero as possible. Now here on the upper ends of the bands, you can go a little bit further. The other thing that you want to do is you don't want to have it look like, where you have it set up where one band is really boosted, like here we've boosted all the high end and then there's a huge cut here. That's going to sound a little strange. It's going to cause these filters to ring and they're not going to sound quite right. So there's another trick called feathering that I want to tell you about, and that is that let me go ahead and reset this, and I'm going to use this virtual 30 band EQ here to show this. Feathering is, let's say that you are trying to set up your system, your speakers, your acoustics in your room, and you're looking for a particular sound and you hear something that's peaking out. In other words, it's a little too much, a little overbearing in a certain band of frequencies, and you find it, okay? So let's just say for, laughs here, that it is in this frequency band here. You can't read those frequencies up top anyway, I don't think. And you find that this is the band that's causing you the heartache. Okay, now on a 30 band EQ, the chances of it being isolated to this tiny little spot is pretty slim. But we are going to, just pretend that this is your problem band right here. So what you want to do is you want to, instead of just taking that one and cutting it and leaving it that way, you want to make your cut invisible sonically, or a little less noticeable. And what you're going to want to do is you're going to feather it. See what I'm doing here? In other words, I am kind of just easing the equalizer into that and making a nice steady curve all around that, instead of just cutting or boosting one frequency, which would sound odd. And this is what it would look like on a 10 band equalizer, because I just switched over to 10 bands. Probably a little bit easier to see on the screen here. So that would be what it would end up looking like. Let's say that you had a real thumpy bass in the room for one reason or the other, and you wanted to quell that a little bit. That's what it would look like. Same thing goes for boosts. Of course, you want to feather just a little bit. In other words, if you end up moving 10 dB up in the high band trying to get some sparkle out of the system, then you'll want to feather it. Just try and make sure it's a nice even curve. It'll actually sound better. And program material to tune your system with. I like using the radio. And the reason why is because a good high quality FM radio station playing some pop music, let's say, or country or something like that, something contemporary. You really don't want classical or jazz, because those types of radio stations don't tend to run a lot of audio processing. No, you're actually looking for a radio station that's going to be running multiband automatic processing. And in radio, they have automatic equalizers or compressors that work in multiple bands that are somewhere in the audio chain in the system, and it does exactly what you would think it would do, and it would make the sound very consistent from one thing to the next. So it's great to set up the room acoustics because you know exactly what's coming into the system isn't going to change from song to song. And of course, the other thing that you can do is just use program material that you know really well, that you've heard on a lot of different systems, and you'll end up tweaking it over time anyway. If you get, once you set it up, you'll set it up one way one day, and then your ears will change a little bit, and you'll come in the next day and you go, that's a little bright. And finally, you will get to the point where you find a basic setting that you like, and then you'll probably stop fooling with it. But they certainly are fun to play with. And if you do a lot of archiving where you're transferring from, let's say, tape to digital or something like that, an equalizer is a nice tool to have, and you can always use it that way as well. Of course, remember your room settings. Usually you only have one equalizer. I like to just use it for room settings, and if I'm going to be doing any EQ, I'll do it in the computer here like I'm showing you. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed the little video, just a little bit of rambling about equalizers and what one can do for you. And of course, if your system sounds good and you don't use them for, you don't do a lot of recording, you probably wouldn't want to go out and get a physical equalizer. There's always one available in recording software, but if you do, that should give you a little bit of an idea where to start and what to do with it. So, thank you for watching. JC, waving bye-bye. Talk to you again soon.